Today's guest on A Life and a Living is an absolutely fascinating lady. She is called Michelle Seiler Tucker. She is an expert at mergers, at buying and selling companies, at fixing companies, getting them on the market and getting them out there. And she really is quite something else. And you'll understand what I mean by that when you listen to her. During the interview, she just gives so much great information about the things that you need to focus on in order to build a business that you can sell. And she would be very strong in the fact that you should be really clear about, when you want to sell it, at what stage you want to sell it, even at the time that you're starting the business. But she's very, very clear about all of the different things, and she's got processes and models that she talks about during the interview. But she really does focus on the things that are going to make a difference to both selling a business primarily that we're talking about, but also understanding, who might be the buyers and who are the buyers that you should be targeting to sell your business to as you go forward. So it's lots of content, lots of great tips, great offer on her book as well. Not only just on the book, but also what she sells or she gives away for free with the book, which is a bundle load of really, really valuable information and documentation to run your business and also to set you up to sell your business. So I really encourage you to sit back and listen to Michelle. She is so clear, she is so concise and precise about the information she's giving that you will take an awful lot from that. So sit back and listen to the very, very interesting and fascinating Michelle Seiler Tucker. Michelle, thank you so much indeed for joining us here on A Life and a Living podcast. I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. Me too.
Well, listen, I want to come on and talk about your book, and obviously we can see it there behind you, the Exit Rich. But yeah, I want to just go back a little bit. I mean, you're a leading authority by any measurement on buying, selling, growing, and fixing businesses. But I'm just curious. I mean, how did you get started doing that and become the lady to go to if you want to sell or buy a business?
So the way I got started is I've always been an entrepreneur. So I've owned different businesses in different industries. And I always knew, even from a young girl, that I was not going to make a good employee because my number one pet peeve is I don't like being told what to do. And even though clients tell me what to do, it's different than an employer telling me what to do. So I've owned different businesses. I did go to work for corporate America. I did get a job at one point because Xerox recruited me. And a year later, I transitioned out of Xerox and I started my franchise development, franchise sales, franchise consulting company. And I was equity partner with a couple of different franchisors. And so many buyers kept asking me, Michelle, do you have any existing businesses? Because they wanted to add to their portfolio, or they were trying to leave corporate America and buy their very first business. And I kept saying, no, I don't have any existing businesses. And then I'm like, why do I keep saying no? I should be saying yes. I'm all about law of attraction. Like Bob Proctor always says, say yes. And so I'm like, I need to start saying yes. What's this going to entail? So that's really how I started my mergers and acquisitions firm, just out of necessity and listening to what the consumers were asking for. And that was a little over 20 years. So I've attended many associations and conferences, and I'm a mergers and acquisitions master intermediary, which is pretty important in the U.S., because the only way you can get that title, John, is not by taking a course, not by going to college. It's by actually doing and selling businesses over $10 million. And so I did that. So I'm mergers and acquisitions master intermediary, senior business analyst, and a bunch of other acronyms behind my name. And I've personally sold over 500 companies. My firm altogether sold over 1,000. And I learned also a long time ago, John, that what Steve Forbes says is true. 80% of businesses in America will never sell. And that's a pretty strong statistic, because if business owners stop and think about that, that means you have less than a 20% chance of success in selling your company.
But the interesting thing is that your percentage of that, I mean, I know that the 80%, but I think your success rate is something like 98%, isn't that?
Yeah, my success rate is 98%. I close 98% of all offers I write. And we close about 80% of all businesses we take. So we're pretty successful, but think about all the other businesses on the market that will never sell. So the reason why we're so successful is because we fix businesses. The number one reason why businesses are not sellable is because business owners haven't created a business that buyers want to buy. Yeah, so we fix businesses, we tweak them, we get them to operate on all 6 cylinders, all 6 Ps. So that's why we're so much more successful. So we're not just putting businesses on the market and selling them like other advisors do. We're actually getting in there, rolling up our sleeves and fixing these companies. So we specialize in buying, selling, fixing, growing. I partner with business owners, investing my core competencies, resources, capital. And I fix our business, put them on the build to sell program. And then we buy businesses and flip them and we sell companies.
Okay. I mean, your book that they're talking about, Exit Rich. I mean, you mentioned Steve Forbes and you mentioned Bob Proctor, and both of them have given you great reviews for the book. But you've also got, great reviews from other people. I mean, Jack Canfield and James Lafferty and many others are real fans. So for any business owner, your book is kind of a must buy for them. But if I go back to the start of many businesses, right? Most businesses are starters because somebody is replacing a job that they had when they set out. But however, the philosophy that you express and what you call the STGPS exit model is your starting place is to determine your destination and start planning your exit then. And my question is that's a big ask for many people, because firstly, many people starting their own business, initially it's just about survival, but do they really is it really that important at that stage that they need to be planning their exit?
Well, Stephen Covey always says, start with the end in mind. And one of the biggest issues with business owners is that they never plan their exit. So it's not so much about starting it from the beginning. It's about starting it, period, because they never plan their exit. They don't think about selling until a catastrophic event occurs, whether that's internal or external. Internal is health issues, partners disputes, divorce, death. External is this pandemic that we all have been living in for the last year and a half. That's the worst time to sell your business. I had a little lady call me, well, she's not old, but I had a sweet lady call me not too long ago. Her husband dropped dead of a heart attack, left her with a mountain of debt. She asked me if I could sell the business. He didn't have a business. He had no employees. He had a glorified job. He had no employees. He had been in business for, I think, 25, 30 years. All the data was in his head. He had no processes. He certainly wasn't operating on all the 6 Ps. And so he had nothing to sell. When a business died, he died. So that's what we're trying to educate business owners on, is that you really need to start your business with the end in mind. Plan your exit from the beginning, because if you do that, John, then you'll operate your business so much differently if you operate it with the mindset that you're going to sell it one day. Even if something happens bad, that your spouse, your significant other, your family will have a sellable asset.
Right. And your GPS exit model, maybe just explain that, because I thought that was interesting. I thought that was really helpful.
Yeah. So you live in France, right?
Yeah.
When you want to drive somewhere, you pull out your phone, you go to Google Maps, and what do you plug in?
Where I'm going. Yeah.
Your destination, right? Yeah. And if you don't plug in a destination, what happens to you?
Well, I probably don't go very far, or if I do, I'm probably going in the wrong direction. So.
That's what happens to business owners. They don't go very far. They're going in the wrong direction. Business owners don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. The biggest issue with business owners is they have no destination. So they're driving around in circles up and down the financial hills to end up exiting poor. And that's the problem. So I work with all my business owners to say, okay, let's figure out your destination. Let's pick a number. What is your end game? What is your desired sales price?
Sorry, Michelle, cutting across. When you say destination, what do you mean by destination?
So what I mean by destination is where you're going, where you want to end up at. When you plug in your destination, you have a specific idea of where you're driving to. Business owners don't. So the destination is your desired sales price.
Right.
your
Okay.
end game. So and John, business owners get hung up on the number. They're like, oh, my number, a number. It's just a number. You can adjust it along the way. So I always help them say, okay, let's talk about what you want to sell your business for. Let's say you want to sell your business for $10 million. Boom, there's a number. Okay. Then what does the GPS exit model need to know? Where you're starting from. What is your current location? In other words, in business, what is your current evaluation? What is your business worth today? And I don't know if you know this, John, but in America, most business owners have never had their business evaluated. I spoke with a guy the other day, been in business 40 years, never had a business evaluated. Business owners don't think about business evaluation. They're like, oh, this happened in my business. This catastrophic event happened. Let me go get my business evaluated. No, your business is your most valuable asset. Business owners have to change their mindset and stop thinking of your business as your baby. Your business is not your baby. Your babies are at home. Go home, love them, kiss them, hug them. Treat your business as the most valuable asset that it is. And you need to know what that asset is worth every day. It's crazy to me, John, because we go to the doctor once a year to get a physical annual checkup to make sure our heart's still ticking and we're still kicking. We drive a car to the mechanic to get an annual tune-up, but we don't take our most valuable asset and get an annual valuation checkup. There are events to increase valuation. There are events to decrease valuation. So every year you must know what your business is worth. So let's say your business is worth $1 million and you want to sell for $10 million. Now you have a starting location. Now you have a destination and you know where you're starting from. The next thing is, how many years do I want to do this in? What's my time frame? Let's say you want to do it in 10 years. Then the next step, John, is determine who are your buyers going to be. Now, notice I said buyers and not buyer. And the reason for that is because clients come to me all the time and say, Michelle, I have one buyer. I have a buyer. I just need you to represent me with that one buyer. And I'm like, no. And they go, what do you mean no? And I go, I'll represent you, but we're also going to put the business on the market and bring multiple buyers, because here's the problem. I'm going to have to get in there. I'm going to have to look at your business. I'm going to have to probably fix your business, because I promise you, you're not operating on all 6 cylinders, number one. Number two, we have to do the valuation. We have to clean up your financials. We have to get all the documents together for due diligence, stick them in a data room. That's a tremendous amount of work. And that one buyer, in all likelihood, will never close on the sale of your business. And you have no backup buyers. Plus, how can we ever get you maximum value if we can't create a bidding war because we have a party of one? So we need competition. So there's 5 types of buyers in America.
Okay.
Want me to continue on?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So you have to determine what buyers are going to buy your $10 million company, John. So there are 5 types of buyers. 90% of buyers are first-time buyers. They don't buy $10 million companies. They buy ice cream shops and coffee stores and restaurants and small businesses. Then you have turnaround specialists. They buy distressed assets. They don't buy multi-million-dollar companies. Private equity groups are the 3rd type of buyer. They buy based upon platforms and add-ons. A platform is, let's say they want to get into healthcare and are not currently in healthcare. They won't even look at your business for less than $3 million in EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. I'm saying that just in case the audience doesn't understand that. And then if they're already in healthcare, if they already have that platform, they'll look at businesses for less than $1 million in EBITDA. The 4th type of buyer, strategics and competitors. And John, they pay the highest multiple typically because they're buying those synergies that can help catapult their business to the next level, such as contracts, patents, trademarks, databases. And then the last type of buyer is what I call storm chasers. They're serial entrepreneurs, sophisticated buyers. They chase cash flow. They're industry agnostic. So if you're trying to sell a $10 million company, your buyers are going to be private equity groups, strategics / competitors, and storm chasers. So the next step is asking yourself, you really have to reverse engineer your plan and say, okay, well, if I want to sell for $10 million, where does my gross revenues have to be? My COGS, my operating expenses, most importantly, my EBITDA. So if you want to sell for $10 million, your EBITDA needs to be around $2 million, depending upon your synergies. It can be less if you have a lot of synergies. That's the next big question. What are the synergies that buyers are looking for? What is their specific criteria that they're willing to pay top dollar for. And then you build your business to meet their specific criteria. It's kind of like when you start a business, John, you're like, here's my widget, whether it's consulting, whether it's dentistry, whether it's manufacturing, it's a widget. Here's my widget. Here's my target market. You build your widget to meet their specific criteria. You do business consulting specifically in leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your widget. Your specific criteria are those companies that can benefit from leadership training and management training so that they can grow and scale their business with the right people. So your business is your widget. Your buyers, those three types of buyers are your target market. You need to build your business, your widget, to meet their specific criteria. That's how you sell businesses for millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. And the last step in that equation is your why. Why do you want to sell business for $10 million? This stuff sounds easy, but it's not easy. And you know that because you train entrepreneurs. It is not easy. It sounds easy, but it's not easy. So the why is everything. The why has to be powerful enough to keep you in the game, to keep you motivated, to keep you weathering all the different financial storms that are going to come your way, to keep you weathering these pandemics, etc. So your why has to be powerful enough to keep you in the game. Yeah. That's the GPS exit model.
Okay, so if we go on to looking at you're trying, that was a great explanation of it, and I love it. If you go on to say, okay, so it's the value of the business, but there are drivers of value in the business, right? And you refer them to your ST6P method, and I thought that was a really important, because these are, I mean, okay, your business can have a value, but it can go up and down a scale depending on lots of different factors, right? And not just about profit, but other factors. So maybe explain the 6P method, because I think that's really helpful for people to get a sense of it. And the other one, if you can wrap into that, is, you know, so many people create lifestyle businesses. Are lifestyle businesses saleable?
It depends. So it depends upon how dependent is that lifestyle business on the owner. Yeah. You know, because the problem is a lot of entrepreneurs, and you already know this, John, but a lot of entrepreneurs have created a glorified job in which they go to work at every day versus a business that works for them. So the problem with lifestyle businesses is they're typically dependent upon that owner. They typically do not operate on the 6Ps. They might have some proprietary synergies, proprietary assets. So they could be sellable to another, to somebody who wants a lifestyle business. You follow me?
Yeah.
But they're going to have to stay on for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the continuity. Yeah. Okay. So that kind of clears that up. So talk about your 6P method.
Okay. So the first P, and you already know this because this is your core competency, this is your specialty. The first P is people. You don't do anything without people. That's why I put P first. You don't build a business. You build people, and people build the business. And entrepreneurs have to get out of their own way. We have to stop thinking that we're good at everything. Most entrepreneurs are not good at management. They're not good at leadership. So entrepreneurs also think if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. So they have their finger in every pie. Well, you'll never grow unless you let go of that control. You have to focus on your strengths, hide your weaknesses, and realize you're not good at everything, and put the right people in the right seats. Got to get the right people in the right seats, and you got to ask the who question. Who handles marketing? Who handles marketing, customer service? Who handles quality control, legal, accounting, manufacturing, logistics, environmental? The list goes on. The clue here, John, is you should never be next to the who. Because what we're really trying to do is build a business without you. So Exit Rich is not just about selling your business. It's all about building a scalable asset, a sustainable scalable asset. So people is everything. And also, if you're going to sell that business for the $10 million, you have to have a layer of management. You know, entrepreneurs need to work on their business, not in their business. And that's the biggest issue. And that's why the businesses are not sustainable. And that's why they're very difficult to scale. So the second P is product. And let me just give a little bit of history here. When I wrote my very first book, Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth, in 2013, I did the research and learned that 90% of all startups would fail. within the first 1 to 5 years. That's common knowledge. We all know that. But when I did the research for Exit Rich, I was flabbergasted to find out, John, that the business landscape has flip-flopped. Only 30% of startups will fail. And this is in America. But out of 27.6 million companies, those businesses that have been in business 10 years or longer, 70% of them will go out of business. 70%. So it used to be startups were at great risk. Not anymore. Now it's existing businesses are at great risk. And you hear about this in the media all the time. But they only talk about the public companies. Toys R Us in business 75 years goes out of business. Kmart, Steinmart, Pier 1. But what the media doesn't talk about are all the private businesses. These business owners are exiting poor. They're selling for pennies on the dollar, closing their business, or even worse, filing bankruptcy.
And why do you think that those businesses, why do you think so many businesses, because I mean, there would have been the belief, as you say, that, if you got over the first hump of the first couple of years and you started trading profitably, so why do those businesses, in your opinion, why do those businesses suddenly start going down the other side of that graph and disappear?
Yeah. So it used to be, John, you're absolutely correct that it used to be, if you've been over that hump, over 5-10 years, you're going to be in business forever. That's not the case anymore. No. Businesses are going out of business because of what I call lack of aim, AIM, lack of aim. You should always innovate and market. Business owners stop innovating. Toys R Us didn't do anything new in 75 years. Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix twice, sat back and did nothing. And look at all the companies out there that don't innovate. Business owners are stuck on their original idea and they don't want to do things differently. They want to keep doing things the way they've always done them. And you're either growing or dying. There's really no in between. So the second P is product. You got to look at your product in your industry and ask, are you on the way up or on the way out? Do you have an Amazon? If so, you should be selling. You sell when you're in your prime, or do you have a Blockbuster and you're about to go bust? And you should always innovate. Look at Amazon. They're always innovating. Yeah. Amazon just acquired they acquired Whole Foods years ago. They just acquired MGM because they're getting into the movies. Amazon is a giant, but they're not stopping. When you stop growing is when you start dying. When you stop innovating is when you start dying. So the second P is product. And if you have a Blockbuster, John, that doesn't mean that you just go home and give up. It means you got to pivot. That's the other P, pivot. And ask yourself 3 transformational questions. Amazon did this back in the 90s. Ask yourself, what business are you in? Amazon said, we're in the book fulfillment business. We fulfill book orders. Number 2, what are you the best at? What is your core competency? What do you do better than everyone else? And Amazon said we do fulfillment better than everyone else. And the third obvious question, what business should we be in? And Amazon said, we should be in a fulfillment business, fulfilling products for everyone all around the world. Those 3 transformational questions transformed Amazon from a small book fulfillment center to a multi-billion-dollar worldwide conglomerate that they are today.
Yeah, and look at what they've done on the web services.
Exactly. So you have to ask your clients, John, what do you need? What do you want? How can I make it easier for you to do business with us? Because Amazon, the company that's winning, the company that provides and makes it easier for the consumers to purchase products and services is a company that's winning. Amazon is winning because they make it so easy to practically buy anything. You can practically buy a horse on Amazon and have it delivered in 2 days. But Amazon asks their customers, what do you need? What do you want? How can I make it easier for you to do business with us? And guess what, John? Business owners stop asking their clients, what do you need? What do you want? How can I make it easier for you to do business with us? And that's what we have to do. Plus, you also have to, here's the other reason businesses go out of business, John. They have one profit center. They have one way they get paid. So many businesses failed during this pandemic because they don't have multiple congruent revenue streams. Like a restaurant gets paid one way. You come in, you eat, you take food to go. That's how they get paid. They don't have any other profit centers like e-commerce businesses, like selling stuff that's unique to their restaurant. So that's
the other P's.
Processes. You will never scale without processes. And process is kind of like exit strategy. Business owners don't think about processes until something bad happens in their company. Like, oh, we need a process for that.
And that's kind of the boring bit, isn't it? The process is kind of the boring bit to an extent, isn't it? But
it's kind of the what?
The boring piece.
Yeah. Absolutely. And processes are ongoing, right? You should always have, here's where I think business owners get, well, I don't think I know. Here's where business owners get this wrong. Business owners design their processes around their own agenda, not the customer experience. Example, doctors, what are their hours? 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. When do people work? 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So they design their processes, their hours around the doctor's own agenda. You know, you got to design the processes around the customer experience. Did you ever watch the movie The Founder, based upon the McDonald brothers?
Yes.
McDonald's restaurant. Great movie, right? Back in 1950s, the McDonald brothers said, we want to build a fast food restaurant, fast food system. We want to design it around the customer experience. We want the customers to experience great tasting food that's hot and fast, 30 seconds or less. They designed those processes. They went to the empty tennis court, spent 9 hours there figuring out the processes. Even though the processes were designed in 1950 and tweaked along the way, it's why you can eat at McDonald's anywhere on the road and get the same experience. Us business owners have to stop and ask ourselves, what do we want our clients to experience? Not what's good for us or what's in our best interest, what's in the client's best interest. And if you don't create wow experiences, you won't stay in business for long, or your competitors will be happy to do it for you. So always design. John, have you ever had a problem with a bank, a retail social media company, and you've called and pressed all these different numbers to get a live person on the phone? You tell your whole story, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me connect you to the right person." Then they end up disconnecting you, or they transfer you to somebody who you tell your whole story again to, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, this is the wrong department." Because they haven't designed the processes around the customer experience. So processes must be designed around customer experience, productive, efficient, well-documented with policy and procedure manuals, SOP checklists, because that's the first thing buyers look at for due diligence. Then fourth P is proprietary. Now, the other two Ps are very quick. This one's going to take me the longest to explain because proprietary is the highest value driver. Businesses that have under $1 million, I'll give you a crash course in evaluations. Businesses that have under $1 million in EBITDA will typically trade for anywhere from 1 to 3, maybe 3.5 multiple of EBITDA, depending upon the synergies they have. Now, if you're a SaaS company, everybody thinks that you get a multiple of gross revenues. That is not true. That is a misconception. The only industry that gets a multiple of gross revenues is SaaS companies. So businesses over $1 million in revenue will typically start at 4.5, 5 and up, depending upon these synergies. So you said this earlier. You said it's not always about the profits. It's a lot of times about the synergies, right?
Yeah.
So proprietary is the number one value driver. There are 6 pillars to proprietary. Number 1 is branding. The more well-branded you are, the more I can sell your company for, as long as your brand is relevant to in the mind of the consumers. Is anybody paying money for Blockbuster? No, because they went bust. Mm-hmm. The most valuable brand in the world is
probably Amazon. Is it Apple?
Apple. Yeah. Yep. Amazon's in the top 10. Apple's worth $359 billion. That's just a brand. That's not cash flow, assets, inventory, anything else. So build your brand. Trademarks, trademark your company name, your slogan, your podcast, your products. But the problem, the mistake that business owners make, John, is they get an idea in their head and like, oh, I love this name. Let me go to GoDaddy and see if it's available. They go to GoDaddy to plug it in. They're like, yes, we got the domain. They go to their state and they get a trademark in their state, but they never check the federal database. And I've seen businesses in operation for 5, 10, 15 years all of a sudden receive a cease and desist letter. And they have to stop using that company name because they don't own the federal trademark. So federal and international, if you plan on doing business internationally, you want to make sure you protect your company name, both federally in the United States and internationally across the globe. Mm-hmm. We have a company, and here's another thing, John, people forget about their products. We have a company that sells products. They have 12 exclusive products, all federally trademarked. Each one is federally trademarked. And then each one is exclusive to a retail chain. So one's in Walmart, one's in Target, one's in TJ Maxx. We're selling this company for $60 million. they have a federal trademark. So you have to protect your IP. Patents are another one. You know, if you've ever watched Shark Tank or Dragon's Den or any of those, the first question they always ask is, do you have a patent on that?
Yeah.
We sold a company that wasn't making much money, to your point earlier, wasn't making that much money, but they had 18 patents. So we sold them for 18 million. So your company can be, you know, one of those businesses that are not extremely profitable, but you have the IP. Also, your IP should be held in a separate corporation. Never include your IP in the same corporation that you do business with, because you want to protect that IP from lawsuits. And then contracts are extremely valuable. Manufacturing, distribution contracts, franchisor with franchisees, any type of vendor contracts, exclusivity, client contracts are the most valuable of all, because buyers want to buy revenues, company with revenues, especially those contracts that have subscription models with recurring revenue. Here's a mistake the business owners make with contracts. In America, 98% of all sales are asset sales, not stock sales. So I've never met a business owner in 20 years, thousands of deals later, where they've actually had the 2-sentence transferability clause that says this contract is transferable upon a new entity. If your buyer doesn't agree to a stock sale and your clients won't agree to consent to transfer before the closing, then your deal can fall apart. If you have thousands of clients, are you going to go to all of them? Thousands of contracts. Landscape company. We have a landscape company that has over 1,500 contracts. Yeah. Are they going to go to every single client and ask for consent to transfer? No, because number one, you don't want your customers knowing you're selling your business yet. All right. So you got to make sure you get that 2-sentence transferability clause and be proactive. The next thing is databases. Databases are huge, and you can be losing money and sell your company for millions, billions. Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp. And WhatsApp was not just losing, you know, not just not making a profit. They were actually hemorrhaging, but they had a synergy. They had 1 billion users. And that's what we're talking about right now, are these synergies. And Facebook knew they could ROI and they can monetize on the sell of that. Here's the other thing. A lot of business owners like, well, Michelle, you know, I have 250,000 followers on Twitter and 150,000 on Instagram and you know, 1.5 million on Instagram. Who cares? And you don't own that. What you need to be doing is creating a funnel to capture all those leads on all these social media channels and get them into your database. So now you actually have and own
an asset. You actually have
an asset. Exactly. Okay. Celebrity endorsements are big. We have a client that has products with Oprah. Strategics will pay a lot of money for that celebrity endorsement because everybody wants their products in front of the queen of everything. Radio personalities are huge because what do radios do? They have advertising, and radio personalities endorse products. They can only endorse one vertical at a time. We sold a skincare company that had the top positions on different radio celebrities, and nobody else could bump them off. No other skincare company could get that position. Right. Same thing with e-commerce businesses. If you're manufacturing, let's say pillows, and you have the top 3 spots on Etsy, or you're manufacturing coffee machines and your number have the top 3 spots in Amazon. These are prime real estate positions that strategics will pay more money for. And the 5th P, any questions there?
No. I was just going to say, what are your 5th and 6th P?
Patrons. That's your customer database. In America, most businesses follow the 80-20 rule, where 80% of their revenue comes from 20% of their clients that have customer concentration. We once were selling a media business that had only 5 clients. We're selling between 10 and 15 million. The 5 clients were the largest casinos because they catered to casinos. They lost 2 in the process. Revenues dropped in half, EBITDA dropped in half. They were no longer sellable. Wow. The last P is profits. The reason I put profits last is because lack of profits is never the problem. John, I can't begin to tell you how many clients call me and say, Michelle, I have a profit problem. I'm like, no, you have a process problem, or no, you have a people problem. You don't have a profits problem. Lack of profits are the symptom of. If you're operating on all 5 Ps, you can't help but be unprofitable.
That's interesting that you put that at the very end.
Well, that's why I put it at the end, because it's a symptom of. It's a function of.
You have a reputation, a very good reputation, I might say, for selling businesses for way more than they're worth. I mean, that's a common comment that I see about you. So how do you how do you do that? I mean, how do you actually sell the businesses and have the reputation for
You know,
selling businesses for more than they're worth?
it's funny because that was the name of my first book. And I got some bad feedback about that title because, I would hear, well, then you're not being fair to the buyer. You're pulling one over on the buyer. No, that's not true. The way we sell businesses for more than it's worth is, number one, on paper in America, a lot of businesses aren't worth much. Because if you look at the net income on paper, it could be the net income could be 250, $250,000, but there's so much being ran through that business that maybe they're making $1 million or 1.5 million. So the first thing we do is normalize the financials and get to the true adjusted EBITDA or true seller subscription earning. Number two, we evaluate businesses on synergies on these 6Ps. And we figure out in these evaluations, because evaluations are more of an art rather than a science. And the key to evaluations are understanding buyers and understanding what the 5 types of buyers are and what those 3 types are willing to pay more money for. Yeah. And understanding who's going to outbid who. Because here's a bottom line. If we have a business over $1 million in EBITDA, it's hard to do this under $1 million in EBITDA, but businesses for over $1 million in EBITDA, we know that we're going to be able to create a bidding war. Yeah. We're going to go to market without a price. We know we're going to bring hundreds of buyers to that one business, because guess what, John? There are more buyers for good businesses than there are good businesses to buy, meaning that there are not as many businesses over that $1 million in EBITDA. So when we get those, we have hungry buyers, and buyers are outbidding other buyers, especially for certain synergies. Yeah. So buyers will pay more for contracts. Buyers will pay more for different things than other buyers will. So that's how we can get more than what the business is actually worth, because a business is worth what a buyer is willing to pay for it, yeah, based upon the value it brings them.
Yeah. And overall, I mean, I know this is kind of a very general question, but what do you see as the biggest mistake that business owners make?
Well, I would say the biggest I'm going to give you 2 things. Okay. Number one is not planning their exit, like we already talked about, not thinking about their business as an asset and planning for that sale. The number 2 is that business owners are not creating a business. They've created a job, not a business, and they're not functioning on all 6 Ps. Those are the biggest mistakes.
Okay. And the other question that's in my mind as you were talking there, how do you know when it is the right time to sell your business?
I always say it's the right time to sell your business when your business is in its prime. Now, how do you know that? Businesses have life cycles, just like humans do. And I call it the adult stage is when you should sell. Toys R Us, I'll give you a story. Toys R Us 2015 was doing 11.5 billion in revenues. They should have sold. 1 year later, in 2016, they filed bankruptcy. So they went from adult to senior citizen. So they went from $11.5 billion in revenue to senior citizen filing bankruptcy. What's after senior citizen?
Probably digging a hole in the ground.
Digging a hole in the ground. So they dug a hole in the ground. They died. Yeah. They closed up 1,500 locations in 30 countries and completely went out of business and died. So you sell when you're in your prime, because what goes up must come down. Unless you're always innovating, nothing lasts forever.
The other question was, you're talking about buyers, and okay, you talked about a range of buyers, and do you need to be clear as you're growing and developing the business? Do you need to be clear about what your potential buyer might look like?
Absolutely, because look, go back to your widget. Yeah. John, your widget is consulting, right?
Yeah.
Is every business owner a prospective target client for you?
No.
No. So go back to your business. Your business is your widget. You need to be crystal clear up front who's going to buy your business. If you have a coffee shop, it's probably not going to be a private equity group. It's probably not going to be a sophisticated entrepreneur. And yes, it could be a competitor that wants to buy other coffee shops, but you really got to be crystal clear on who your buyer is going to be and build your business to meet their specific criteria so you can maximize value and cash out when you're ready. I mean, the reason we identify our target market when we go into business is because we know what our products and services are not going to appeal to everybody. You have to have that specific target market, and you've got to build everything to meet their buying criteria. Same thing with your business.
Yeah. Michelle, this has been fascinating. I have to apologize that I've taken up much more of your time than I said I would, but it's really been fascinating. Listen,
I love doing this, so I'm good.
Okay. Well, and you're good, and you're good at it. Let's be honest about it. You're an easy person to interview. But just before we wrap up, and you can tell people where they can get your book and get in contact with you. But 2 questions I ask everybody. One is a book other than your own that has made an impact upon you. What is the book and what is the impact?
I would say Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill Foundation.
Yeah.
You know, and the impact has just been huge. And one of my blessings is that Sharon Lechter, who is my co-author of Exit Rich, wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki, and she's written several books in the Napoleon Hill Foundation. So I would say Think and Grow Rich.
Isn't it extraordinary with Think and Grow Rich? I mean, there was written so long ago, and it's still so relevant, isn't it?
It's so relevant, and what's really good about it too is I always say when a student is ready, the teacher appears. Yeah. When you read a book, you get certain things out of it that you need at that time. But then put it down, make your notes, highlight it, and then go back to that same book a year later, read it again, and you're going to get a whole different perspective. And you're going to get things that you didn't get last year because you've grown as a person. I always say we will never grow the business beyond what we can grow the owner.
Yeah, great line. This has been great, Michelle. I really enjoyed it. Where can people reach you? As I said, we put all this in the footnotes, but if they're listening, where can they reach you now? Where can they go? Presumably they can go to Amazon and buy your book and any other place like that.
Yep. So SeilerTucker.com is my main website, Seiler Tucker. They can also connect with me on social media. We'll make sure to include all the social media tags in your show notes. Yeah. And then where can you get the book? Okay. So you can get the book 2 places, exitrichbook.com, also Amazon. I do encourage everyone in America to go to exitrichbook.com because there we have all the value. Well, everybody around the world can go to exitrichbook.com for $24.79. Now that is our launch special. We actually launched, I don't know if you know this, John, but we launched last week. And so our official launch
next week. For some reason, I thought it was next week.
Nope, it was last week. So Tuesday through Saturday was our launch. And just to let you know, Steve Forbes endorsed Exit Rich, and it's a goldmine for entrepreneurs as they leave way too much money on the table. Kevin Harrington, our original Shark on Shark Tank, wrote the foreword. Sharon Lechter is my co-author. And like you said, we have wonderful testimonials from extreme, business owners, very successful business owners. So you could go to exitrichbook.com and still get the special, I believe, because I think you're airing this in 4 weeks, but you can go to exitrichbook.com and buy the book there, plus shipping, because we're past launch date now. But we'll still have the golden nuggets. We're still going to give you the massive value at exitrichbook.com. We'll give you a lifetime membership to the Exit Rich Book Club, where there's video training of me doing real deep dives in different techniques and strategies that we've been talking about here today, that I've been teaching to business owners for the last 20 years, plus documents, John, documents to operate your business, documents to sell your business. We have sample policy and procedure manuals, employee handbooks, org charts to sell your business, sample letter of intents, purchase agreements, due diligence checklists, closing documents, and more. All the documents to sell and operate your business are there. They're available for your review and download. If you want an attorney to recreate these documents, it will cost you over $50,000. So this is a huge, huge value.
What a giveaway for the price of a book.
A huge giveaway, plus a 30-day free membership in the Club CEOs, which is an entrepreneurship mastermind, where we ask those transformational questions so business owners can pivot to build that sustainable, scalable, and when they're ready, sellable business, all at exitrichbook.com. So go and get your copy today.
Well, Michelle, I now understand better the answer to the question of why it is that you're able to sell businesses for more than they're worth. I now know the answer to that question better than I did at the very beginning. But Michelle,
Awesome.
thank you so much indeed for taking part in the interview. It's been a fantastic one. It's been a real eye-opener and great information that you gave. So thank you so much for being a guest here.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for having me.